Welcome to Everyday Cooking with Ann. Today we're doing one of my favorites because for 40 years I've been making pies. And then I started catering weddings, and I have so many great pie recipes. And then I decided I needed to make these for weddings, and those are kind of hard to cut, into 8 pieces and serve at a wedding. So I finally figured out I needed to be making tarts. So I'm going to show you today how to make rich tart pastry. Now what that is different than a pie crust. It's a little lighter, a little flakier, which of course makes even a better pie. So let me show you some of the different kinds of tarts or quiches you can make with these different tart shells. This is like a little individual one, but it's kind of large, but this is something you could make like a mini quiche out of and cut it in half if you wanted to. And then of course this is a bigger one. You can do lemon tarts or a quiche or any kind of a tart or quiche in this shell right here. For weddings, sometimes when I just want to do an individual serving of something, I just one little individual serving because they want to have several desserts they want to have on their plate. I can make them out of this as well. But my favorite one is this, and I've been making these for years, to make lemon, chocolate, cherry cream, all kinds of different pies, little fruit tarts. These are really perfect for that. So I'm going to show you today how to make these to make into individual servings of pie. So, and like I said, the pastry, this rich tart pastry is very different than a regular pie crust, and you easily can remove it from the tart shell and make the filling and serve it, and it's really beautiful for any like dinner party or anything. And it's such a wowzer. People see it, they go, wow, that looks amazing. But I'm going to show you how easy it is to do today. Okay, first of all, just to make this, I've got let's see, I forget what it is. Hold on, it's 1 1/4 cup of flour here. I've got 3 tablespoons of powdered sugar, and this is 10 tablespoons of unsalted, very cold butter. I just took this out of the refrigerator. You want to have very cold butter. And so 10 tablespoons is actually 1 whole cube of butter plus 2 other tablespoons. So that we're going to incorporate that into our pastry right here too. And of course a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Now the reason I have ice cubes over here is that usually I triple this recipe, so it's a little bit more. So today I'm just showing you the regular recipe to make 10 tarts. I'm going to put a little bit of cold water in here, but this is 1 egg yolk. I'm going to put a little bit of cold water in here. They say the recipe calls for like 2 tablespoons. But while this is sitting here waiting, I'm going to put a couple of these ice cubes in here too to make sure that it is really nice and cold. I'm going to mix that up. Okay, there we go. So here we go. I'm going to put the 1/4 teaspoon of salt. The powdered sugar, this is going to be a sweeter pastry, and powdered sugar makes it very flaky as well. So I'm going to mix this up together, and I'm using a pastry cutter. But if you don't have one of these, you can actually use your fingers, or you can use 2 knives and cut it together like that. Whatever, crude thing you have to use to put it together, if you don't have this, works fine. I just use this because it's easy for me. And you can also put this in like your little ninja dough maker in your food processor too, and that will put it together too. But I like to do it like this. Well, let me tell you what I'm going to do now. I'm going to be putting the butter in. So I made it into little small cubes so I can easily incorporate this into our flour and powdered sugar mixture. So since it's so cold, it's going to take a little bit of time just to get it all put in here. And why you want little chunks of butter in there is that helps create the flakiness of the pastry. So you don't want it totally. Those little chunks of butter are what make it so amazing. You want to make sure it's evenly distributed, the butter. Let's do this a little bit more. Okay. Now, you're not going to add this whole thing. You only need maybe 2 to 3 tablespoons, but it is very cold. It has the ice cubes in it. And I'm just sprinkling in a little bit at a time and starting to incorporate it. You want to make sure it's not too dry. Just a regular plastic bag like this. You don't want to be handling any kind of pastry with your hands too much. So I'm going to take actually this little thing right here will work great. I'm going to take this and put this in here and just add your pastry mixture. When you start handling it with your hand, the oils in your hands kind of toughen the crust. So we're trying to keep this light and flaky, like you know it'll turn out. And then what I do is I just take my dough, take this right here and just mash it together. And I can tell from the texture that it's got plenty of moisture in there. It doesn't need any more of the water or ice cube. Okay. Okay, it's just in a little ball. Now what I'm going to do, because I want to keep this cold, and even though this was cold here, I want to put this in my freezer. If you want to go away for about an hour and leave this in there to chill, so you can do a chilled dough. If you don't have time for that and you want to do this quickly like I do today, I'm going to put this in my freezer for about 15 minutes, which is going to make it nice and easy to slice in half and start rolling out. So I'm going to put this there. We'll be back in a little bit. When I just took my dough that I had wrapped in my little plastic bag out of the freezer, I left it in there about 15 minutes. While I was doing that, I was making a cherry pie filling that we're going to be using in these tart shells. So I was spending all my time making sure this is all going to be done correctly. Okay, what I'm going to do now is take this out of the bag, and I'm going to cut this in half. And you can see all the flecks of butter in here that make this thick pastry. That's what those little cold pieces of butter are like, what you would make croissants with or something, or another pastry. It's what keeps it very flaky. Okay, so what I'm going to do is put a little bit of flour on my pastry cloth. And for those of you who haven't seen any of my other pie demonstrations, I use this cloth, pastry cloth. It's my favorite way. There's all kinds of ways to make pie. You can find all kinds of different ways, but this has been my go-to way to do rolls and certain kinds of cookies and anything that I want to roll out that I don't want to put too much flour on. So I'm doing this, and this is called a stockinette, and this is my French rolling pin. I'm putting a little bit of flour in here so that I don't use too much flour on my rollout dough. So I'm going to start rolling out. Now I have turned the oven onto 350 degrees right now. What we're going to be doing is cutting these out a little bit bigger, and I'll show you that in just a moment. But can you see the butter layers in here as I'm rolling it out? You're never going to want to go back to regular pie once you make a pie pastry, tart pastry, this rich tart pastry, because it is so delicious and flaky. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and take one of my tart shells, move it as far away to the edge as possible because I'm going to be leaving a little bit of an edge on it. So I'm going to cut around like this. Okay, and then I'm going to turn it over and kind of form a little pie around here, a little pie edge. And so you want it to be kind of high so it will fit all your filling that you're going to put in here. Okay, let me do a couple of these so I'll show you how this looks. So now I'm taking this, and it looks like I'm going to have to roll out some more, but here we go. Cutting a little bit of that, and then all the way around the edge, making sure there's plenty of room to, you want to press it into the sides here, and then you want to just roll it a little bit up like this and just pinch it a little bit so it stays above the shell like that. Let's do one more. So I'm going to easily be able to fit 5 out of this because we want to make 10 or maybe even more. Okay, you can see you roll it a little bit thin, which is what you would do in a pie as well. Okay, now I think you can buy these tart shells on Amazon. Look and see. I've had these for many years because I've been making these a long time. I've rolled out all of the tart shells and put them into the little tart pans. And now what I've already done is prepared 10 of these aluminum foil, and I'm going to put them inside because what we want to do is help keep the shape so it doesn't shrink down. And I'm going to take each one of these and I'm going to prick it in here in the corners here and in the center here. Okay, see, so I'm making the tart so that it doesn't shrink. What I'm going to do is do this in each one of these. Aluminum foil out, and so they will brown up nicely for another 7 minutes. So all the tart shells have the aluminum foil that I kind of pricked with a fork to make sure that they keep the shape. And then you're going to take each one of these and you'll put these way in the back individually. Set your timer for 7 minutes. And when we come back, we're going to be taking the aluminum foil out and letting them brown for the last 8 minutes. Been on with our tart shells in here for 7 to 8 minutes. And about half the time is what we're going to use. So I'm going to go ahead and come in here and just quickly, even though it's hot, I don't want to take them out. I'm just going to take off my aluminum foil wrappers. And you see they did their job of kind of holding the shape of the tart. Okay, we're going to close our oven and bake this for another 7-8 minutes until they look golden brown. Okay, we have taken our tart shells out of the oven. I actually had to add about 2 extra minutes because I've never made those in this oven. So you need to just look at those in your own oven and see if you have to add any time. So a total of about 15 to 17 minutes at 350 degrees. This is what they look like. I've already removed a couple of shells, so they're completely cold, and they release very nicely actually, as you see here. And if they don't, then you just kind of move it a little bit off. So this is how they look, and it doesn't look like it will fill a lot, but we're going to show you in just a minute with the cherry pie filling. It is kind of delicate, so you have to be careful when you're removing them. Loosen it just a little bit. I want to tell you the many things that you can use these tart shells with. I'm going to fill these, and you'll see, with a cream cheese whipped cream filling, and then top with my cherry topping, and then put a little whipped cream on top. So you see how really beautiful they are. You can use these. I'm going to be showing another video soon with lemon tarts, and also with chocolate tarts, and also with a fruit with a custard filling tart. So there's so many different ideas of how you could fill these tarts, and actually you could actually fill them with like a chicken a la king or something like that if you wanted to as well. So it's kind of like a puff pastry shell. You can't really buy it in the store. This homemade will be so much better, and as you can see, it's really not that hard to make. You will find this recipe in the description below under Rich Tart Pastry. And you will also want to share this with your friends, or you would like to subscribe to my channel. I'd really appreciate that. As well as like or comment too how it turns out for you. I really like to find out if you actually try my recipes.